The algorithm will probably punish me for putting out this video, but it's not really the algorithm, it's you. Because these are 15 truths that you do not want to hear. But I'm going to tell them anyways. What people want to hear and what they need to hear are a little bit different. This is probably what you need to hear. Number one, most advice is bullshit. Most advice is not designed to help you. That's what you need to understand. It's designed to make you feel good. Now, it's designed to be agreeable, to not upset you, to validate you, these sorts of things. So, you often hear advice that's very trite, very cliche. It's things like follow your passion, work hard, believe in yourself, be yourself, think positively, never give up. Now, this stuff is not necessarily wrong, but it's just vapid. It's cliche, it's vague, it's kind of meaningless. And more importantly, it's board approved, right? This sort of advice is not a threat to anybody. It's not a threat to your own ego, and it's not a threat to anybody who stands to lose if you rise up. Now, the problem is that this sort of advice is very easy to consume. It doesn't cause you to have to do anything extra, and you feel good because you're listening to the advice. But most importantly, it doesn't actually offer you guidance on what to do differently compared to what you're doing now. And if you don't do anything differently than what you're doing now, then you're not going to get different results than you're getting now. It doesn't help you change behavior, and it doesn't help you get to where you want to go. Because in reality, good advice has a few qualities. It's more specific than vague. It's actually concrete. It is contextual. It's based on where you're at now, what you want to do, where you want to get to, and the constraints that you face. It's very goal specific. You see this a lot where people will essentially offer you advice about what they want and what they have done. You see this in dating advice a lot, where it's like these dating coaches kind of assume that every guy wants to bang a bunch of fours that they meet on the street. And, I'm sure that's fun for a while, and it is. Not fours really, but you get the point. But what's really going on is these guys are offering advice, essentially trying to sell you on their own lifestyle so they can feel better about the decisions they've made. Because if they can get you to sign up for that lifestyle as well, then it validates them and their choices. But that's not real advice because it's not tailored to you and what you want. So a better question is, what sort of behaviors produce the desired outcome given your actual constraints? So, what are your desires? Where are you at right now? What behaviors do you need to change? And how will it overcome your specific constraints and limitations? An example of this is eating healthy, right? Eat healthy. Good advice? Not really, because it's hyper vague. It doesn't really give you guidance about what to do. It doesn't really address the actual issues that you're facing that are preventing you from eating healthy. So, a better actionable piece of advice would be something like, when late night cravings strike, eat homemade popcorn cooked in coconut oil instead of store-bought snacks. Now, this is a very concrete thing that will help you in a specific sort of situation if you're dealing with late night snacking and you like salty food. So that's just one example. But again, most advice is bullshit. It's made to make you feel good. It's designed to make the person who's offering it feel good. It's not necessarily designed to help you, because helping you in this instance means forcing you to do something different. And it also means challenging what you're currently doing. And that doesn't feel good. It's better to hear, oh, just be yourself, never give up. Yeah, of course. But it doesn't really, it's easy to hear, but it's not necessarily what you want to hear. And it's difficult to hear because real advice will challenge what you're currently doing. It will kind of point to the fact that what you're doing right now is failing you. It's not getting you to where you want to be. So that's number one. Second one is, environment will always trump willpower. Now, this is a big one because motivation is highly overrated. Now, as a metaphor, you can run uphill, but how long can you run uphill? Can you run uphill for a kilometer? Maybe. Can you run uphill for a marathon? Probably not. Now, that's metaphorically what you're doing whenever you expose yourself to things like this, to infinite entertainment, highly processed food, uh, algorithms that are designed to keep you outraged and emotional, pornography, social validation, endless convenience, constant novelty, mind altering substances, clutter, and just negative and unambitious people. If you are surrounded by those things, then being more disciplined is not a realistic route to improving your life, because the problem isn't that you don't have discipline, it's that you're surrounded by things that make discipline impossible. So, a better strategy is to be hyper ruthless about engineering your environment. Engineer it specifically to attain the goals that you want to get. Again, cut out the screens, cut out the pornography, cut out the easy goals and social validation, and then you'll be much more likely to focus on the things that you actually want. Next, make sure you're establishing habits and systems. Habits are just doing something effortlessly because it's automatic. You've done it so many times that you don't have to think about it. You don't actually need effort or willpower to do it. Same thing, systems is setting up a process so that there's very little friction in order to get the thing done. Now, these make desired actions easier than undesired actions. And that's where the magic really happens, because we tend to default towards the easiest thing to do. So if you make your desired action very easy, very frictionless, and if you make the undesired action very difficult, well, then you're probably going to do the desired action. It's the equivalent of running downhill towards your goals as opposed to running uphill. So, just some examples of this. Whenever you want to get fit, choose a gym that's close to your home and has a vibe you enjoy. This makes it much more likely you're going to go. So rather than, finding the gym 30 minutes away, or finding the gym that just has like a vibe that's not you, maybe it's too preppy and kind of gay and Planet Fitness like, or maybe it's too grimy. Whatever your vibe is, find the one that fits you. And more importantly, find the one that's easy to go to, as close to your house as possible. And that will make it much more likely that you maintain that habit. Same thing, packing a gym bag the night before reduces the friction of going to the gym in the first place. So if you just pack the gym bag and take it with you to work or have it waiting for you, then you don't have to take as much time to stop, to get ready. You get home, you start scrolling, or you feel tired. It gives you less excuses, really. Same thing. Sleeping with your phone in another room makes it harder to check first thing in the morning. Very common sense. If you want to eat healthy, don't keep unhealthy food in your house, right? If you're on a diet and you want to lose weight, well, don't keep Oreos in your pantry, obviously. Same thing, removing distracting apps from your phone. If you're trying to not waste time, just delete the apps that cause you to waste time. There's no need to have whatever League of Legends on your phone if you're not planning on playing it anyways. The bottom line is that environmental architecture will always beat willpower. So you need to be extremely ruthless about your environment. And this goes for the people around you as well. Like if you have people around you who aren't inspiring you, who are just kind of like middling, they're not necessarily like encouraging you to do bad things all the time, but they're also not really inspiring you, just cut them out, right? And you don't have to be like a dick about it, but you don't have to explain yourself either. They will find other people to hang out with. Don't worry. There's plenty of people out there with zero standards who they will find to hang out with them. And if they can't find anybody else, well, then they're probably not very great people anyways. So it is what it is, right? Be ruthless about the environment you set up, because that's what will ultimately determine your life, not your super strong willpower. Next thing, motivation fails without clarity. Now, large goals feel great to have, but they're very daunting. It's nice to tell ourselves, like, oh, I'm building a business, or I'm going to get in shape, or I'm going to learn a language, or write a book, or improve my career. But you hit a wall because you don't really know what you're supposed to be doing at any given moment. You hit the wall because these grand goals are so abstract that anytime you think about it, you have to think about, well, what do I do now? Instead, you should just already have that identified. You should always know what is uh, the most important next step, and then you can execute on that. So rather than like thinking about like, your vision board was like, oh, I'm going to start a business. No, you should have a list of what is the most important thing you should do today to get that accomplished. So something like sending 3 proposals or doing 15 push-ups, writing 300 words, practicing listening for 10 minutes uninterrupted, and then writing down new vocabulary words and then rewriting those vocabulary words into new sentences. That will help you learn a language more than just like, oh, I'm going to learn a language. No, know exactly what is the most important next step and then execute on that. So really, you need to be asking yourselves the right questions. Quit asking, how do I stay motivated, or how do I become more disciplined? And instead start asking, what is the smallest concrete step that I can take right now to move this goal forward? And whenever you optimize for clarity and taking action, then motivation isn't really required, because it's just such a small thing that you just have to do this right now. And then you do that little step and you start building like the snowball. The ball gets rolling downhill, and then you don't need to psych yourself up to like, oh, I'm going to get in shape. No, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to hit my PR. It's very simple. Next thing, preparation is usually procrastination in disguise. So planning feels productive because it resembles real work. It requires time, it requires effort. Things like researching or planning or buying equipment, organizing your schedule, taking courses, watching tutorials, working on like a Notion template or something like that, Obsidian, whatever. But all of these take time and attention, but then they don't move the needle forward. These are essentially, I mean, you could literally be playing League of Legends and you would get just as much accomplished. So the litmus test between production and procrastination is this. You need to ask, what exists now that didn't exist before I started? Now, if it's just a better plan or clarity, that's nothing. That's not real. That's just a story you're telling yourself. So keep in mind that a finished piece of content will always beat another iteration of your content strategy. A sales call will always beat watching another marketing video. A completed workout beats a finer, detailed fitness plan. You don't need a fitness plan. You need to go to the gym. It's very simple, but nobody wants to hear that. They'd rather mentally masturbate, researching, planning. Oh, I need the right equipment set up. I need the right microphone. No, you don't. Hit record, put out 100 videos, and then think about getting a new microphone. Really simple. Next thing, this is a big one. Wanting to be understood will keep you at best mediocre and at worst mentally ill. Now think about a weird, demented trans ABC person, right? It's not so much of a mental illness that they think they're some weird gender. Like, nobody cares about that. Nobody cares what you think you are. The mental illness stems from trying to control what other people think. It's not that you think you're a woman that makes you mentally ill. It's that you think you can make other people think you're a woman. If you just let go of that and you just focused on your own presentation rather than what other people perceive you as, then you would have a little bit of a burden off of your shoulders. But generally speaking, you cannot, by definition, you cannot make unusual choices and seek out unusual results without being misunderstood by people who are habitually playing it safe and doing conventional things. So if you want an exceptional life, you need to abandon any desire of being understood, accepted, cared for, thought about, these sorts of things by normies. Because these are people who are just going to go along with the crowd. They're always going to play it safe. They're always going to fall for the latest propaganda or the latest thing, and let them, right? You don't need to convince them of anything. You don't need to be understood by them, because if you're doing that, you're just going to be wasting time. So just some quick examples. If you want to become more disciplined, people are going to say you're obsessed. Like you've lost sight of all these other things, the finer things in life. You don't know how to have fun. Okay, who cares if people think you don't know how to have fun? Same thing. If you become ambitious, they'll say that you become arrogant, you've changed, you don't want to hang out with us anymore. Okay, cool. Same thing. If you reject a normal career path, people will say you're being irresponsible, that you're not thinking in a sober manner. And if you stop drinking, all of your lush friends will call you boring. Who cares? Let them keep drinking. If you move somewhere unfamiliar, if you move halfway across the world, people will say you're running away. Again, good. Let them think that. If you build something unusual, people will say you're wasting time. It will never work. Of course, it won't work for them because they would never try it. And if you want to make money, people will say you're greedy and they'll misquote the Bible to you. Again, just let them make a moral statement out of being poor. It's fine. So there's a huge value of having thick skin and rock hard self-belief. Explaining yourself to normies costs time and energy. And that's time and energy you could be spending doing the thing that will get you the life you want. So chasing approval more than anything else will keep you stuck. So you need a solid internal reason and a willingness to face consequences. If you can combine these, you will have freakish drive, especially if you've handled the environment. Next thing is, you need experience, not information. Now, God, this is such a big one too. Understanding is not the same thing as application. People think they need to understand things. They don't. They just need to do things. For example, you can understand nutrition while being fat. You can understand psychology without being persuasive. You can study business without making sales. So focus on doing the thing, not trying to understand the thing. Now, as a coach and as a teacher, I can always tell when somebody's never going to improve whenever they constantly ask why, whenever they feel like they have to understand everything rather than they have to just do the thing. So instead of trying to understand every single detail and reason and logical aspect, really focus on just application. Now, that doesn't mean you should never ask how come, but your primary concern should always be how to, and also how to do it better, how to improve. Knowledge essentially creates the illusion of competence. Real competence is difficult because you have to take action, put in reps over a long period of time. So rather than doing that, people want to feel competent. And the easy way to do that is just grasp at knowledge. It's like, well, I'm going to read another book about this. The reality is you're never going to learn to play something like tennis from reading a book. You have to go out, you have to practice swinging at balls. So mastery comes from practice, not from intellectual understanding. And again, some of the most expert people in their field, they couldn't explain to you what they're doing. Like Michael Jordan was a terrible basketball coach. He just couldn't explain. He couldn't teach people to do it. He could do it, but maybe his intellectual understanding of what he was doing wasn't the best. Next thing, this is a big one too, identifying with your ideas. If you've ever met somebody who strongly identified with their ideas, you may have noticed that they react in a very emotional way whenever you criticize, challenge, or just don't even buy into those ideas. Because whenever you don't appreciate their ideas, whenever you don't validate their ideas, they take it as a personal insult. They feel like you are not appreciating or validating them. So, and this is, that's an extreme example. A lot of political people are like that. But the most important thing is most people will identify with their mind to some extent. They'll identify with their thoughts. But that creates a huge friction and it creates a lot of friction and suffering, especially stands in the way of learning, because growth happens the fastest whenever you can let go of identifying with what you think you know. Overall identity is hugely powerful, but what is identity? It's simply an assumption about who we are. It's an assumption that you make about yourself. People often say something like, well, I'm not a morning person, or I'm just introverted, or I'm bad with money. Learning language is so hard for me. Now, these are identity statements that are based on previous actions and experiences, but they're presented in a way as if they are permanent features. So you really need to change your language if you want to change your action. And unfortunately, English isn't really set up for this. The way we kind of talk about things, we talk about them in a very stative sort of way. But a way you can replace your language is Instead of saying like, I'm not a morning person, you can say, I currently behave in a way that causes me to stay up late and wake up late. Or I haven't practiced a language enough to get good at it yet. I'm not great at Chinese yet. Now, if you were to say these sorts of things, it leaves the door open for you to improve in the future, and it's simply more accurate because you're not this static one thing. You're always in a process of becoming. So that's a big one. Again, people don't want to hear it though, and that's fine. Number 8 is people underestimate how much their life can change in a short period of time. People tend to think linearly. They believe change happens gradually and evenly over time. But really, think back to what you were like 5 years ago. You've definitely changed to some extent. Whether it's been a slow degradation or whether it's been a quantum leap has really depended on what you've done in that time. If you've been disciplined, if you've done the same thing over and over again, you've definitely built skills and a repertoire of experience, and your life has probably changed quite a bit. If you have been chasing novelty or good vibes or pleasure seeking or approval seeking, then it's probably only changed at the margins and it's probably gotten worse. In reality, activity will always compound. So 5 years of poor eating and a sedentary lifestyle will quickly turn into obesity and illness. On the other hand, 5 years of consistent nutritious eating and exercise turns into elite levels of fitness. So the people who progress the fastest and the farthest are the people who can bear the boredom of doing the same thing over and over again. And the reality is, one piece of content is not going to build an audience. One gym session is not going to build a physique. One sell does not build a business. But doing any of these things for 5 years consistently, it will change your life or will change your state of existence. Importantly, that 5 years is going to go by. If you're lucky, if you don't die, you're going to spend 5 years doing something, and at the end of that 5 years, you will have grown in some way. You won't be the same person you are today. So you need to decide now what sort of action, first decide the character you want to become, and then decide, okay, these are the sort of actions I need to do to get there. If I want to become healthier, if I want to become wealthier, if I want to become more socially connected, then I need to consistently do these XYZ to get there. Because that 5 years, it's going to disappear. The 5 years is going to slip by. So, and you're going to change in some way. Why not use that 5 years to become as amazing as possible, to gain as many skills as possible, to build as many connections as possible? Good question to ask. Most people won't ask it. So we're going to cut this video short. I'm going to divide this into 2 videos, but I do have a quick call to action here. First, please subscribe to Nick in a Garden. You can find me at X, YouTube, and on Substack. If you subscribe to my Substack, I'll send you my free high agency audit. It will reveal exactly how in control of your own time, attention, and focus you are. If you score well, great. You're probably doing pretty well. If you score poorly, maybe I can help you get back on track. On Instagram, I'm at Western Improve, and you can also buy merchandise at westernimprovement.net. Great place to get a t-shirt, inspire other people. Now, if you do have big goals, you probably need to break those goals down into smaller habits and actions, and you need to track those habits and actions. You can do that with the Harada Hero web app. It's something I created. It was a habit tracker that didn't exist. Incredibly customizable, incredibly granular when it comes to stats, with none of the retarded gamification stuff. So check that out. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you for part 2 soon.